Welcome everybody to Farmhouse Lilies, where today we are making chocolate cherry sourdough discard scones. Holy guacamole, these are so delicious. I cannot even start explaining how wonderful they are. Like, you truly have to make these scones. They are amazing. So what we're using for these are dried tart cherries, and I actually had some freeze-dried cherries that I decided to toss in here as well. If I were to go back and make these again, I would only use the dried tart cherries. I would only use those because the tartness in these scones just makes it over the top delicious. And I added cocoa powder to this recipe just kind of on a whim. I was thinking that I was just going to make like a savory scone recipe with a little bit of tart cherry in it, but this recipe just needed a little bit more sugar than that wimpy eighth of a cup. And so it has a little bit more sugar, and honestly, it's just this recipe right now is the crowning jewel in my collection. It truly is delicious, and the sourdough discard in here really just kind of adds a little bit of extra tartness and just kind of like an umami flavor really is what it adds, and so it's really nice. And then you can use milk. I decided to use buttermilk because I was really going for tang here, and I didn't get like a ton of tang. Really, it's just kind of in the tart cherries that you really get that feeling. But here we are stirring things up, adding an egg, and that just kind of helps to loosen up the sourdough starter a little bit. I decided this last time when I was feeding my starter to just add flour, and it was great because it did add a lot more days to how how frequently it added a lot more time to how frequently I could feed my starter. And so I just added the flour, so it was really thick and it, added more time, but it is difficult to incorporate. So that is a thought. And I did make this recipe with a looser sourdough starter. It's fine. Doesn't change anything. But here, kind of one of my tips for these sourdough scones is to go ahead and mix your mix-ins with the dry mixture to kind of coat everything individually so that it doesn't all clump. And I'm kind of doing the same situation with this butter here. I really want to make sure it doesn't clump all together because one of the last times I made this, I accidentally just threw a whole ball of butter in there and it was not very easy to get everything separated. So I really worked hard with this one specifically to keep everything nice and separated. But here we are adding our wet mixture into our dry mixture and mixing it in. I do a couple of little dough turns essentially. I need it just a tiny bit on the counter just to get everything incorporated because sometimes, depending on the day and the humidity and all that kind of stuff and the room temperature, depending on the day, it can be a little bit more crumbly than others. Oh, and I forgot to add my chocolate chips, so I was adding them right here. But so sometimes it's nice to knead everything just a couple times to get everything nice and incorporated. So here I am pulling out all of our dough, and you can see it is a pretty shaggy dough, and then we also have that extra dry stuff that I'm trying to knead in there. And it really doesn't take long because there's enough moisture in the dough, it just doesn't really want to incorporate well. But yeah, that's what happens when you have dogs in the house. You gotta make sure all the chocolate's off the floor. But go ahead and knead everything and go ahead and shape it into your disc or whatever shape you want to turn it into for your scones. I'm using like a traditional round wedge scone kind of thing here. My preferred way is actually to make squares. So I'll make a square and then I'll cut 9 into it and get 9 scones instead of the 8. Because honestly, I think these wedges are kind of large for for people, but it's kind of hard to go any smaller because they're just so big and then they get tall and they topple over. And anyway, excuses, but let's put these scones in the cast iron and we'll get them all baked up and ready to go. I mean, see, look how honking those are. That's a lot of scone to eat, but they're still delicious anyway. And I'm not gonna lie, I've eaten many of these scones because they are so delicious. Just, I can't get over the tartness of the cherry that just really makes these shine, and the chocolate just adds a whole other dimension. Not only because it's sweet, but because have you guys ever had chocolate as a savory part in a meal, like a mole or something, like a nice chocolate mole? Ooh, so much flavor and just umami in that kind of situation. So I suggest adding chocolate to things that do not normally need chocolate. I'm always for chocolate though. So let's put these in a 400-degree oven for, I think I did like 20 to 25 minutes. And when they're finished, it's kind of hard to tell when they're done because you can't see the nice golden brown tops. But if they look dry and if their tops are, firm and they seem like they're cooked, it's kind of like a brownie is what it is. When they're cooking, they smell delicious like brownies. But you can stick a little cake tester or a thermometer bit in there, and you can test and see if you have any like wet bits coming out, like like you're testing a cake. So deliciousness all over here. Highly recommend. Yeah, give it a try and let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think. Push the like button, subscribe, and be my friend. Come talk to me. Let's talk some food from scratch and some homemaking and handmade living. Ugh, such a fun topic to talk about. I could talk about it all day. So we will see you later. Thank you guys for coming and watching this video today. Drop a comment below for something you would like to see in the future, and I will do my best to add it in. It may take me a while to work on it, but we'll see you later. Have a good day. Bye, guys.